In this session, we are going to discuss about what is a shell, how to access a shell, how to use Linux commands and syntax, how to list a directory with options and arguments. Then we will be looking on some commands like ls and pwd. What are the different fields of ls-l command and how to check present working directory. A command is an instruction given by a user telling a computer to do something, like running a program or group of programs. Commands are generally issued from a command line and then pressing the enter key which passes them to the shell. A shell is an interface between a user and operating system. A command can have few options and it can also accept some arguments. However, there are some commands that do not accept arguments and a very few with no options as well. For example, the clear command is a command which used to clear the screen. This is one of the rare commands which doesn't have any options or arguments. An option can be specified using an hyphen and an argument can be a file name or folder name. Below is an example where we used an option -l with ls command, which is going to display you all the files and directories in the current directory in a long listing mode. Example for an argument is ls space dir1, where dir1 is a directory name. This command is going to display you the details about dir1 directory, the contents under dir1. The last example is for an option and an argument, where we passed -l as an option and dir1 as an argument. This command is going to display you all the files and directories under dir1 directory in a long listing mode. If you are using a Linux system without graphics installed, by default you will have a login prompt like this without any graphics. This is called command mode. Let's have a look on how to log into a command mode using a username and password. Here I am going to give the username, which is user1, and I am typing the password. This is called a shell prompt. I can start typing command after this $sign. A dollar represents for a normal user shell prompt, whereas for a root user you will have a shell prompt with a hash sign. A root user means the administrator account. Next we will look on how to access a shell prompt in graphics mode. Once you install CentOS with graphics mode enabled, then you will end up with this kind of login screen. You have to go and click on the user which you want to log and type the password for that user. Once you have got into your desktop view, then you can go to the application tab, then go to the system tools, and you can click on terminal icon here. This is the way of accessing a terminal in graphics mode. As we discussed earlier, this is what a shell prompt, and this dollar represent for normal user shell prompt. This particular shell is called an interactive non-login shell, whereas the other login shell is called an interactive login shell. The difference between both of the shell is, in the other shell where you are directly logging to a shell using a username and password, whereas here first you are logging into a graphic mode, then you are accessing a terminal. So this kind of shell is called interactive non-login shells. Next we will look on how to pass commands using a command alone, then with an option, and after with an argument. I am going to pass ls command in this shell prompt. For that you can start typing ls and then press enter. And ls is going to display you all the files and directories under the current working directory. The same command you can use with an option ls space hyphen, and a hyphen represent for an option, and the option is -l, which I am going to pass. If I press enter, this output is going to display you the directories and files in a different mode, which means in a long list mode. An example for an argument is ls space, then you can pass a directory name or file name to this command. Here I'm going to pass a directory name and press enter. This is going to display you the files and directories under desktop directory. Right now we have only one directory under desktop, which is called new underscore documents. The same command you can use with an option with an argument. If you press enter, this is going to display you the directories and files under desktop in a long list mode. Next we are going to learn one more command called pwd, which is going to display you the present working directory. You press enter here without any options or argument. It is going to show you which is your present working directory. Your present working directory is /home user1, which is the home directory for user1. So any files and directories created by a user are going to store under his home directory unless you specify a directory name. Next we will look on the output of ls-l command. As you can see, the output of ls-l command is been separated with different fields. The first field is talking about the file type and permission of the file. The first letter is talking about file type. In this case, all are directory file types. As we discussed in the earlier session, Linux identify everything as file. So a directory is a directory file type. A device is a device file type. A regular file is a regular file type. And a link is a link file type. Here everything is a directory file type. And the second portion of the first field is talking about the permission. So we have a separate session for only to discuss about the permission. We'll be discussing more in that session. The next field is talking about number of files and directories. So in this case, the desktop directory has 3 contents and rest of the directories have 2 contents under that. So by default, every directories will have 2 hidden directories under that, a dot directory and a double dot directory. Next 2 columns are about user and group of the file. So when you create a file, there will be a user ownership and a group ownership belongs to that particular file. In this case, user1 is the owner or the user of all these directories. And there is a group also in the same name user1, which is going to have the group ownership of all these directories. The next field is about size of the directory or file, which is in KB. Then the next field is about date and timestamp, when the file was last modified. The last field is the file name. The key points you have to remember as a summary of these sessions are: a command can have an option or an argument. There are few commands which can be executed without any arguments and options. An option represented by a letter hyphen. Shell is an interface between user and operating system. And 2 types of interactive shells are there. One is an interactive login shell, other one is an interactive non-login shell. An interactive login shell is a shell using that you can log into a Linux system. An interactive non-login shell means which you are accessed after logging to the Linux system. We learned 2 commands, ls and pwd. ls is a command which you can use to list a directory. One of the option you can pass to an ls command is letter L, which can long list a directory. You can use a pwd command to print present working directory.